Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day wherever you're at, whenever you're watching this. We got another 40k video here for you. This one has been requested by one of my YouTube members. This is about Aeonid Thiel. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Censured Sergeant, Warhammer 40k lore by the Remembrancer. So links will be down below as always in the description to the original video without my commentary and reaction into the Remembrancer's channel. So do me a favor, if you enjoy this video as we go through it, be sure to give it a like, and if you enjoy the content that the Remembrancer puts out, check out their channel, and be sure to give them a sub, show them some love. If you'd like to join us as I do these reactions live, which I'm doing right now for my YouTube members, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. So if you've been around the channel for a while and decided you want to take your sport to the next level, check those out and see if any of that would have any interest for you. But for now, let's get into this video. So again, this is Aeonid Thiel, Cursed Sergeant, Warhammer 40k lore by the Remembrancer. Seems good, let's go.
Sergeant Thiel, do you happen to know why he was under censure?
I do, sir. His commanding officer discovered that he was running theoreticals on how to fight and defeat Space Marines, sir. Thiel claimed, in his defense, that he had run theoreticals on all other major adversaries, and it was a tactical blind spot not to know how to fight the legions. He said, as I understand it, that the Space Marines of the Imperium were the greatest warriors in the galaxy, and thus had an obligation to understand how to fight and defeat the greatest warriors in the galaxy.
I mean, there is a certain kind of logic to that, right? I'm assuming this takes place before the heresy, where that was like really frowned upon, you know what I'm saying? From this introduction so far. But there is, I mean, a certain logic to that, right? Like, it's kind of like Batman and the Justice League. Like, there needs to be a deterrent for, even them should they go bad.
Thiel declared that Space Marines were the only opponents left worth any theoretical study. His theoreticals were regarded as treasonous thought, and he was referred to the flagship for censure.
That was his infraction?
Asked Gage.
Looks bloody pitiful from where we're standing, doesn't it?
The doctrines of the Imperium, such as the Codex Astartes, bind humanity's purpose into values fit to carry out the will of the Emperor. For while there are many heretical tomes devised by madmen, one must reflect on the value of insight, whilst being cautious of overstepping into the boundaries of heresy. For today, we shall elucidate a Space Marine whose vindication would aid in the future of not only his Angels organization, but survival.
Okay.
The Sergeant of the Ultramarines Legion, Aeonid Thiel.
Right, yeah, right before the
The
heresy.
Angels of the Legiones Astartes would be crafted by the Emperor of Mankind for a singular purpose. The galaxy's human inhabitants had been scattered and fragmented, with untold civilizations becoming besieged and enthralled by heretics and Xenos alike across the stars. In order to unite humanity, a bloody conquest of the solar system would be the only method to bolster the now burgeoning Imperium of Man. With Holy Terror united, in part due to the deeds of the ill-fated Thunder Warriors, such barbaric killers would need to be culled to make way for a new breed of soldiers. Crafted to purge the galaxy of any whom would threaten the future of humanity, the Astartes would slay the Thunder Warriors of Terror before carving a path through the galaxy. Embodying the greatest traits of humanity's heritage of waging war.
This version of the helmet, every time I see it, I just can't help but think about, like, Cylons, from Battlestar Galactica.
Each legion would be tailored to end the uprisings and insurgencies of any whom should challenge the Emperor's great vision for his Imperium. No foe would be capable of denying his Angels' indomitable might, and with the closing of the Great Crusade, the Legiones Astartes had proven to be the single most deadly and efficient army to ever conquer the stars.
It's an interesting thing about too, right? Like, with how powerful the Astartes, are in their current form, and I guess even they're getting to be more so with the Primaris, upgrades that are happening. It's interesting, right? Like, just think about, like, how if the Thunder Warriors were more stable and they didn't, like, succumb to a lot of the rage and just genetic breakdowns that they did, excuse me, from, I guess kind of, improper genetic tampering, or just them being a little bit more rushed because they were there to kind of like serve that specific purpose of unifying, Terra. But if they had been a little more perfected and stable with how much stronger they were, like how things even more would have, like, how would have things turned out, Another kind of what if scenario, right? Like the Battle of Ultramarine would have gone even more in humanity's favor, and would they have been more resistant, or would they have been more susceptible to warp and chaos corruption? I don't know. It's just interesting to think about. Another kind of what if scenario of, if the Thunder Warriors were more stable, and they had kind of become the mass production, Astartes, what would the Imperium look like today?
Yet with few enemies to test their blades and bolters against, a theoretical would spark in the mind of a singular space marine. The sergeant of the Ultramarines' 13th chapter, Aeonid Thiel. Aeonid would draft battle scenarios and strategies that would pit the deadliest warriors in the known galaxy to face the Astartes, their own brethren. An idea bordering on treasonous, Aeonid's senior officers would discover his theorems and decry his openly heretical ideas. Defending his position as a tactical necessity and obligation to bolster his legion's knowledge in combat, for there remained no other combatants capable of defeating or challenging the Imperium's mightiest warriors. Thiel's senior officers would demand he face censure and send the disgraced sergeant to face judgment aboard the Ultramarines' flagship, McCragg's Honor. Coating his battle helm red as a mark of censure, Thiel would comply to be judged by the chapter master, Antoli, and his Primarch within the Calf system. Yet with an ironic twist of fate, Thiel's theoreticals would prove to be less heretical than initially perceived, with the fall of the War Master to the thrall of the ruinous powers.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a situation for him, right, where it's like the timing, like if the heresy began like right at this time where he was being, I guess tried for this, then obviously he'd be looked at differently. But if this was like something that happened closer to the start of the Great Crusade, before the heresy began, again, things probably would have been turned out differently, and he would have been tried, either in prison or maybe executed. But I think more than likely, because he was here closer to when the heresy began, that his findings probably would have become, important military doctrine on how to fight back against a lot of these Chaos Legions, the Traitor Legions. And, yeah.
Horus Lupercal would be corrupted by the malevolent powers of chaos. Orchestrating the purge of his own loyalist Astartes within his ranks, Horus would devise a strategy to buy his rebellion time to grow in strength and manpower. To this end, Horus would require a distraction to keep the most numerically superior legion at bay, the Ultramarines. Dispatching the 17th Legion, the Word-Bearers, the masters of demonology and summoning rituals, would attempt to overwhelm the Ultramarines with a sudden...
Well, that was one of the big points in Horus Rising in that book, right? That's the whole thing that like really made like Loken like freeze and hesitate, was seeing Serjanus, I think it was Serjanus, be corrupted and turned and killing other Space Marines, because it was like unheard of, unthought of, etc. at that time. So I could definitely see that, yeah, more than likely he would have been probably tried and executed, but I guess maybe because of the timing of it and the heresy happening probably around the time of him doing this, that it actually saved him, right?
Sudden and overwhelming surprise attack. Their treachery unknown to the 13th Legion, the Ultramarines would accept the Word-Bearers into their fleet with open arms as fellow battle brothers.
Rip.
With their guards lowered, the Ultramarines' betrayal would be enacted. Under the command of their Primarch, Lorgar Aurelian,
Fucking
the
Lorgar,
Word-Bearers
dude.
would slaughter the Lords of Ultramar. Backstabbing their once brethren, the Word-Bearers would deal a crippling blow to the 13th Legion with the initial stages of their plot. Jamming the Ultramarines' communications, preparing their fleet's weapon batteries, and beginning their summoning rituals using the Butchered Dead, the Word-Bearers would seemingly break the Ultramarines in one fell strike. Yet the 17th Legion had not prepared for the Ultramarines' resolve, ingenuity, and the disgraced sergeant harbored within the Macragge's honor. As the Word-Bearers began their plot, Aeonid would wait for judgment within Rebute Gilliman's chambers of the Ultramarines' flagship. Already aware of his life.
Isn't this the story too? Like, because his head was painted red, isn't this the story about how that red mark of the helmet also kind of got turned to like a badge of honor?
Likely expulsion and possible execution for his views, Aeonid would see no harm in practicing with Gilliman's personal weaponry housed within his chamber's private armory.
And it's him finding the personal weaponry of this that actually led him to go and I think save Gilliman, right? I remember hearing this part of the story at some point in time.
The exotic and mastercrafted weapons would be varied and potent examples of his Primarch's countless victories and compliances throughout the galaxy. Yet as Thiel tested the swing of each blade within the collection, he would be interrupted by the invasion of demons within the Macragge's honor. Battling the demons with blade and bolter, Thiel would begin to understand the vulnerabilities and traits of the warp-spawned beings, finding firearms to be less effective than melee weapons and the searing heat of flame. Thiel would arm himself with a selection of his Primarch's personal weapons. Finding the disorganized and disparate warriors, crew serfs and laborers within proximity to his Primarch's chambers, Thiel would organize the crew of the Macragge's honor into a discordant yet capable company. Arming them with the weapons found within Rebute Gilliman's private armory, Thiel's band of mismatched fighters would battle their way to the ship's command bridge.
Yeah, I mean, that weaponry would probably even the odds.
Arriving at the command bridge in time to prevent the first chapter master of the Ultramarines, Marius Gage, from being slain at the hands of a demon, Thiel's would-be band of warriors would purge the foul machinations of the warp from the bridge. Bringing an apothecary to tend to Gage's wounds, the chapter master and Thiel would converse on the methods they could use to repel the Word-Bearer's assault. Aeonid's theoreticals on how to best fight Astartes now proving invaluable, Thiel would surmise that the Word-Bearer's greatest weakness would be for the Ultramarines to eschew their otherwise rigid and predictable battle doctrines. Approving of Thiel's assessment, Gage would relay orders to the Ultramarines' resistant forces to scour the Macragge's honor to purge the demonic entities of the ship under the command of Aeonid. Successfully regaining control of the Macragge's honor, Thiel and Gage would reunite with their Primarch, Rebute Gilliman, aboard the flagship. Gilliman would propose an assault of the orbital weapons platforms surrounding Calth, currently occupied by the first captain of the Word-Bearers, Cor Phaeron. Thiel would concur, and with 50 Astartes under his command, accompany his Primarch to assault the platforms. With the Ultramarines' command hierarchy shattered by the Word-Bearers, Gilliman would order the assault squad commanders to paint their helmets red as a mark of senior rank.
Yeah, there we go.
With their Vox communications still unreliable, Gilliman would require a simple and clear visual cue to denote the senior officer's ranks. Facing Cor Phaeron and his elite Galvorbak honor guard, the Ultramarines would valiantly fight the duplicitous servants of chaos. Yet for their efforts, Cor Phaeron would escape judgment, despite the first captain's heart being ripped from his chest by the hands of Rebute Gilliman.
Damn.
The Word-Bearers' fleet would retreat, with half their fleet destroyed, with the Ultramarines' resurgent strength and opposition to their betrayal. Subsequently, Gilliman would muster his fleet to persecute the traitors to the throne and assign Thiel to purge the now ravaged surface of Calth of the remainder of Word-Bearers left to die by their own legion. Aiding in the relief effort and underground war of Calth, Aeonid would prove to once again be integral in hunting down and persecuting the traitor Astartes. Yet his deeds and infamy gained from Calth would not go unnoticed, for there would be those among the traitor war effort whom would use his glory to mask their own insurgency.
Alfarius.
After years of toil, Rebute Gilliman would receive word from Aeonid Thiel on his progress in the reclamation of Calth. Eagerly inviting his unconventional yet trusted son to confer with him, Gilliman would come to value Thiel's eccentric yet honest insight. Accompanied by a squad of Astartes of so-called Orphans of Calth, the armed and armored Space Marines would gain audience with the Primarch within his personal chamber. Without the protection of his honor guard, and sealed within his chambers, Thiel would reveal himself to be an imposter. The real Aeonid Thiel, stationed on the surface of Ajax, was investigating the silence of a once bustling Prometheum.
So I'm assuming that, yeah, someone from the Alpha Legion ended up taking his place, or disguised themselves and, yeah, got up there to try to assassinate Gilliman.
Refinery. For those in audience with Rebute Gilliman were not loyal sons of Ultramar, but servants of the Hydra. Without weapons or armor, Gilliman would battle the Alpha Legion imposters. Injured at point-blank range by the insurgents' bolters, Gilliman would narrowly manage to kill each and every one of the 20th Legion Astartes before collapsing from exertion.
I mean, that should still tell you how like the power difference between Astartes and Primarchs, right? Like, with no weapons and no armor, he's able to still fight off, you know, I don't know how many of them are there, at least a squad. You'd think at least 5 to 10, right? Alpha Legion Astartes.
As his Primarch lay bleeding within his chambers, Aeonid would discover the Prometheum rig of Ajax to be abandoned. Unaware of the plight of his gene-father, Thiel would battle through the rig's security measures to find a solitary tech priest of Mars. Explaining that the rig's crew had succumbed to madness and flooded the station, killing the majority of its inhabitants. Set upon by the Alpha Legion, Thiel and his men would face the traitors. The Alpha Legion Astartes, wielding strange sorceries, would overpower Aeonid, yet with his stalwart battle brothers at his side, Thiel would be saved from the Hydra's killing blow. Mortally wounding the 20th Legion insurgent, the Astartes identifying himself as Alpharius would utter the word Night Fane before succumbing to the embrace of death. With evidence of the Alpha Legion's involvement, Thiel would conclude that Ajax had been infiltrated to a greater extent by the 20th. Knowing more spies lurked within the dark corners of Ajax, Thiel would conduct measures to root out the Hydra's insidious influence for the remainder of the Horus Heresy.
I mean, yeah, that would have to be like one of the primary things you'd have to deal with, right? Because then it's like, now you know there's insurgency and traitors in your midst, right? Like, disguised as other Ultramarines, etc. You need to root them out so that they're not able to learn any kind of intelligence and bring that back to the traitors, and or not so chaos and disruption in any kind of theater or battle you're going to engage in.
With the end of the Civil War to preserve the Imperium ended, Aeonid Thiel's reputation would be personally restored by his Primarch. Ascending to the rank of captain of the Ultramarine 2nd Company, with their reorganization into a Codex-compliant chapter, Aeonid's legacy would be widespread within the 13th. Once a mark of shame and censure, the red-painted helmet marking of the once Legion was now an honor for the Ultramarines chapter to bear. Denoting the rank of sergeant within the chapter, the redemption of Aeonid Thiel would be an enduring legacy and lesson for all Ultramarines to follow. Even though his whereabouts and deeds following the 31st millennium have been lost to history.
Interesting.
Though what is known is that Aeonid would stand at the side of his Primarch during his final recorded engagement of the Battle of Thessala. During 121.M31, the Ultramarines under the command of Rebute Gilliman would seek to bring the 3rd Legion, the Emperor's children, to justice. The traitors to the throne had been repelled from Holy Terror, yet the Great Scouring demanded retribution and blood for their treachery. Commanding the Ultramarines chapter and 6 of its successor chapters, Rebute Gilliman would hunt down the Primarch of the Emperor's children, Fulgrim. Fully transformed into a demon prince of Slanesh, the serpentine creature, once known as the Phoenician, would snare the Ultramarines into a trap. Ambushing the loyalists of the 13th, The outnumbered warriors of Ultramar would assault the 3rd Legion's flagship, Pride of the Emperor.
Yeah, I think during this whole process, right, during the Horus Heresy, I think, isn't Fulgrim the one who actually killed or wounded more Primarchs than any other Primarch, right? Like he kills Ferrus Manus. I think he's the one that wounds Guilliman here, right? That ends up forcing him into stasis until he's found and revived later, right? I think he fights and injures Dorn. I don't remember if he kills him or not. And then I think he kills or injures a couple more, right? Like, I mean, some of those happen before he becomes a Demon Primarch. And then I think several of them happen after, but that just goes to show that he's not one to be taken lightly, especially in his Demon Primarch form.
Assembling a desperate boarding strike team of...
Which, by the way, I like his new... I've seen some people say they prefer the old Demon Primarch figure of Fulgrim, but I don't know. I like the new one. I guess it kind of does. The facial expressions are kind of a little jank, but I still think it looks dope. I eventually want to have all of the Primarchs minis professionally done. I want to have 2 of them, actually. I want to have ones that I can paint, and then I want to have ones that'll be like kept on display or whatever that have been professionally done.
100 Astartes, Guilliman would teleport onto the bridge of the traitor vessel. Alongside his Primarch, Thiel would witness the confrontation between the 2 Primarchs. Despite Thiel's protestation, Guilliman would duel the corrupted Fulgrim in single combat within the ship's Heliopolis. Guilliman would be mortally wounded by the chaos-infused Fulgrim and call for the aid of his captains. Alongside First Captain Andros, Thiel would fight to reach his Primarch. Fulgrim would slit Guilliman's throat with his poison-coated blade, and with a desperate struggle, Thiel would manage to retrieve his Primarch and teleport himself and Guilliman away from the skirmish. Aboard the vessel, Gauntlet of Power, Thiel and the surviving members of the strike force would retreat from the battle. The remainder of the fleet sacrificing themselves to allow their Genefather to escape the clutches of the 3rd Legion. Thiel's actions once more prolonging the survival of the Ultramarines in their darkest hour. A fighting party appears, moving urgently down the corridor. There are several Ultramarines in it, but it is also composed of army troopers and navy personnel, including at least one Uphuman Stoker. They are armed with the most mismatched and exotic weapons Gage has ever seen outside Guilliman's private arsenal of... They are all from the Primarch's private arsenal. "Move up! Secure the section!" the sergeant yells. "Brother Curso, scope the next corridor. Flamers to the front. Apothecary Jer, get to the chapter master, right now!" He bends down beside Gage, setting his weapon on the deck where they will be in easy reach. Close up, Gage can see the scratch marks adorning the sergeant's armor.
"You're an apothecary?"
Gage asks, his voice a husk of its normal baritone. "Just coming, sir."
"Your name?"
"Thiel, sir. Aeonid Thiel, 135th Company."
"Marked for censure?"
"Today started in a different place, sir."
"That it did, Thiel. Well said. Who put you in charge?"
I did.
"I put myself in charge. I was awaiting interview on Deck 40 when everything went to pieces. There was no chain of command. I decided I needed to build one."
That's some Giga Chad right there.
This has been a tale of the great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer. Aeonid's rebellious tendencies would nevertheless be tempered with the loyalty and discipline of his legion. His unconventional tactics and uncompromising duty to the Ultramarines a testament to the ingenuity of the venerated 13th. For while rules, regulations and structure are the foundations for his Imperium, there are times when such strictures should be broken. Only in deeds does humanity endure, and any deed made against the tide of the ruinous powers is a worthwhile endeavor.
All right. There we have it. There we have it. That was Aeonid Thiel, Censured Sergeant, Warhammer 40k lore by The Remembrancer. Links will be down below as always in the description to the original video, that my commentary and reaction, and to the Remembrancer's channel. So if you enjoyed this video as we went through it, please be sure to give it a like, and if you enjoy the content the Remembrancer puts out, hit that sub button on the channel and show him some love. I mean, it was pretty good, Chad, honestly, man. He saved his Primarch not once but twice, you know, during his actions. The first one when the heresy essentially literally began and the word bearers were assaulting the flagship of the Ultramarines, saved him then, repelled the demons, etc. And then later on, during a duel between Guilliman and Fulgrim, when Guilliman was injured, he saved him there and potentially sacrificed himself to do so. But I mean, it makes, I understand the whole, it being kind of a heretical thought at the beginning, you know, during the Great Crusade before the heresy began, the whole idea of creating tactics and doctrine to fight against other legions. But I mean, honestly, it also does make a certain sense make a certain logical sense, because you need to be prepared for any kind of contingency, and who's to say, you know, certain legions might not turn against certain things, you know? I think even before, you know, chaos came into it and there's corruption, there were certain Primarchs, you know, of course, Angron never liked the Emperor, Conrad never liked the Emperor, etc. So like, there were certain Primarchs and legions that really didn't believe in the Imperial truth and the plan that the Emperor had put out there. They were just kind of following along because they really didn't have much of a choice. And so obviously a lot of those legions and Primarchs turned traitor when, you know, they had the opportunity to. So I mean, it only makes sense to have, you know, that kind of preparedness. And it just so happens that he got lucky with the timing that the heresy started when it did. Otherwise, he probably would have been, you know, tried and executed, and that would have been his story. But as, you know, things went, it was lucky that he was able to have access to Guilliman's private armory, and when shit hit the fan, he was able to muster up a ragtag crew with those weapons and, you know, fight back, clear up, you know, a path to the, you know, commander, and then save his Primarch. So, I mean, pretty Giga Chad stuff. And of course, his story is the story of how, you know, the red mark went from being a symbol of dishonor to one of honor, and to mark the Ultramarines sergeant. So awesome stuff, good story. So yeah, again, that was Aeonid Thiel, first or censured sergeant, Warhammer 40k lore by the Remembrancer. So yeah, like I said, if you enjoyed this video of his, sure to give it a like, etc. If you'd like to join us as I do these reactions live with my YouTube members, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. You've been around the channel for a while and decide that you would like to take your support to the next level, check those out and see if any of that would have any interest for you. Regardless, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub. That helps me and the channel grow. And yeah, hope you guys are having yourselves a wonderful start to the new year. We'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, guys.